For generations of school children, milk has been an important part of the daily diet. Doctors and nutritionists regard it as a healthy and nutritious food that helps keep children fit and active. It's pure, it's natural, and we all know where it comes from, right?
Hi, we're making a film about milk. Can I ask you, sir, a question?
Yes.
What do cows eat?
Grass.
What do cows eat?
Grass. Grass. Grass.
Yeah, what do
I
cows
love
eat?
milk.
What do cows eat?
Grass.
Right
Mainly grass.
You'd like to think so.
Oh, really?
I'm Liz Earle, and I've spent all my working life writing about health and beauty. And the one thing I've learned is how vital good food is to the way we look and feel. I've recently become a farmer. We bought a derelict dairy farm and converted it to organic pasture, as I've always thought it best to rear animals on what they eat naturally. Grass. We started with sheep, and these are our Hereford beef cattle, and now we're thinking about taking the plunge into dairy. But I've been quite shocked to discover just how few cows are eating that much grass. I'd like to find out why and how it's affecting the milk that every family is drinking.
I'm meeting Amanda Ball, Head of Marketing at Dairy Co, public face of the UK dairy industry. She shows me a modern, high-yield dairy farm. A feed hopper grinds in the corner of the yard, and looking on are hundreds of cows in sheds.
On the vast majority of British dairy farms, cows are housed for part of the year, and for part of the year they're out to grass. On this particular farm, and in other farms like this up and down the country, then cows are housed all year round.
So what are they fed then if they're not eating the grass?
Yes, well they do actually eat conserved grass. It's what we call a total mixed ration.
Okay, so what is this?
So what we're looking at here is a combination of conserved forages, and you might even be able to pick out there's grass in there, there's maize in there, and that's combined with cereal crops to provide carbohydrate and starch, things like wheat, and also there'll be some lovely protein in there, so things like rapeseed meal. And then that's complemented by all the essential vitamins and minerals that also goes into the TMR ration.
So how much of that would be grass itself?
Anywhere, from 15% upwards, but it really depends. It's on a farm-by-farm basis.
And soya, is that added?
Yeah, protein crops such as soya are included, yeah.
So is that GM soya?
As far as the debate around GM goes, then currently, yes, there could be soya that would be sourced from crops that are from GM in other countries, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what about the nutritional value of milk that's produced with cows eating TMR compared to just grass? What's your view on that?
I mean, I think the important thing is to make sure that their nutritional needs are met. If you just fed cow on grass, then she would be able to fulfil her needs for maintenance, but not as a milk-producing cow. And that all that the cow ate was grazed grass, then essentially the production from the milking cow would not be economically viable. So,
Well, that wasn't really the question I asked. Amanda's point may be true of cows like those on this farm that have been specially bred to produce high yields. But some farmers take a very different approach. Tom Mallison farms 400 Jersey Friesian cross cows in Dorset.
This Jersey cross type of cow, although they give a bit less milk, they live a bit longer and they're a hardier type of breed. They also produce higher quality milk in terms of fat and protein, which means the farmer gets a better milk price than the standard sort of black and white liquid milk type cow.
Right, so financially it's better for you as well?
Yeah, very much so. Even though the output per cow is lower, the costs proportionally are even lower than that. So
yeah.
the margin is better.
Are they just eating grass here?
For the majority of their diet is just grass in the grazing season. A small amount of concentrate feed. and in the winter they'd eat silage and forage crops.
Which is
and
stored
that's-
up grass, is it?
Which is stored grass.
I have to say they all look incredibly healthy. Is this a better diet for them?
In my opinion it is, yes, particularly if with other species like clover and chicory in the pasture. Everything a cow needs can be found in the soil. It's just up to us as farmers to get better at using that soil instead of buying things in a bag and in a lorry.
Did you have
feed our
fewer
cows.
health problems with them eating grass?
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's partly down to the fact that they eat green food for most of the year. You know, just like humans, I think eating their greens is good for them.
And then presumably do the benefits get passed on through the milk?
There's evidence to suggest that the milk from grass-fed cows is certainly healthier for humans.
Research shows that milk from grazing cows contains higher levels of some nutrients than cows that are fed on TMR rations made with maize, silage and cereals. These nutrients include antioxidants such as vitamin E and important fats, the omega-3s and a substance known as CLA. These are really important for brain development and function. They help guard against heart disease and even some types of cancer. So I'm off now to meet a scientist who's been carrying out some of this research.
Gillian Butler, a senior lecturer at Newcastle University, has worked with farmers in the northeast for over 30 years.
Nafferton Farm is like two half farms put together. Half is run to organic standards and the other half is managed conventionally.
Based at the university's own farm, her current research is analysing animal fats, studying how we can produce food that's better for our health.
Managed conventionally.
So what are we seeing here?
These are the organic herd, just on their way into milking.
For research purposes, the two herds are kept strictly separate.
So here we've got the conventional cows on this side and the organic herd on this side. And this is as close as the two herds come, and it looks like a normal milking parlour, but in fact it's two half parlours that are self-contained, so that we can milk the herds at the same time by the same person, and that won't bias any of the research that we're carrying out on these two herds.
The milk from the predominantly grass-fed organic herd and the conventional herd, along with samples from many other farms, are brought to the labs for analysis.
So this is the lab where all the sample preparation goes on, and this is Socrates, who's been responsible for all the sample preparation.
You're the lead
in all the
researcher.
Yes, that's right.
Fantastic, well done. And you?
So what we have to do is put a carefully measured amount of each milk sample into these test tubes, mix it with various chemicals to release the fatty acids, and then we can measure them. So this is Socrates setting up the final part in our analysis of milk, and it's all done by chromatography. Most people's image of chromatography is dropping a blob of black ink onto blotting paper and it separates into all these colours. Exact same principles here. Our sample gets dropped into this machine and we can separate all the fatty acid and identify the relative proportion of each of the fats.
Right. And that's here, is it?
The size of the peaks represents the levels of each individual fatty acid. And if we look for some of the beneficial fats, we can see these two here are the ones we are particularly interested in. This one is an omega-3 fat, alpha-linolenic, and this one is CLA, conjugated linoleic acid, and they're the ones that we want to find in milk. These are good for us.
So what are we seeing here on this peak?
That one is an omega-6 fatty acid, linoleic acid. The fact that this is so high suggests this is a conventional milk sample. They tend to be higher in omega-6 fats coming from maize. Maize is high in omega-6 as opposed to grass and clover that are higher in omega-3. And studies we've published 2008 show cows fed grass, a high proportion of grass in their diet, these would be much higher than on the conventional that tends to be dominated by the omega-6 fats.
So this then scientifically proves that your pasture-fed milk and your organic milk contains more of these essential, important nutrients that are so good for our health.
Yeah, certainly all of our work shows that if cows are receiving grass in their diet and they're out grazing, then these peaks will be consistently higher. There's no doubt about that. the grass results in higher levels of these beneficial fats in our milk.
So we've now got scientific proof that this grass-fed milk is far better for us with all these great nutrients that we need. Why isn't it being labelled so I as a consumer can go and buy it?
Well, there doesn't seem to be much motivation from the milk processors or the retailers to do this. I think farmers would love to see grass-fed milk marketed separately, but I think perhaps there's cost for the processor in segregating, which they don't want to bear, and perhaps they're just not aware of the marketing opportunity that exists.
So if it's possible to produce healthier milk, why is it not more widely available? Time to hear the industry view.
We've seen research shows that grass-fed milk is having higher levels of some of the beneficial fats, the omega-3s, the CLA. Do you think that the industry could be doing more to encourage that and to create a better product?
Yeah, I think what the science is really interesting and the science is evolving. I think the first point to start with is what a wonderful product we're starting off with. So yes, it is possible to, if you like, look at ways of adapting the final fatty acid composition of milk. But the fundamental issue is, as an industry, before we even go anywhere near additional value, we haven't actually established a good understanding of what's great about milk in the first place.
So what then would you advise consumers to do?
Firstly, they can look in terms of traceability and milk integrity. For example, they can look out for the Red Tractor logo on pack.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean a huge amount, does it? I'm sorry. It just means that it's legal. It's British.
Yeah, it does go beyond that, in that the Red Tractor logo, for example, actually determines a whole series of controls, a whole series of balances and checks that farmers have to go to.
It certainly doesn't tell you that the nutritional value is over and above perhaps the standard.
No, I mean,
product.
you're absolutely right. The Red Tractor logo isn't about the nutritional quality.
So let's
of the
forget that.
products.
So what else can we look for?
The reality is, of course, that current labelling gives us no clue.
Our message as an industry is that we want people to really kind of look at where their food comes from and how it's produced. Go and talk to your retailer, go and find out and go and ask questions, and then only then can they know the true value of dairy.
Should we be looking for the words pasture-fed or grass-fed?
Well, in terms of the system of production on pack, if that was creating a point of difference for the public and a point of difference and a point of added value for the farmer, then I'm sure that's information that people would gladly see. Farmers will respond to market drivers, but at the moment there aren't the market drivers there that would say produce whatever that added value product is. What we need is a marketing environment that allows us to differentiate at point of purchase. So you're absolutely right, it can be achieved, but it's not the answer for everybody. Because otherwise, if it's the answer for everybody, there is no point of difference.
No, but there shouldn't be. There shouldn't really be two tiers of milk, should there? There should just be great milk for everybody.
Well, isn't that what we've got today? Isn't that what we've got today?
Well, I'll leave you to make your own mind up. The irony is, of course, that most of us believe the milk which we and our families drink, that's given to the children in school, comes from cows that eat grass. Whereas, as we've discovered, grass can make up as little as 15% of a dairy cow's diet. The science is clear. The more grass a cow eats, the healthier the milk. And there are plenty of dairy farmers out there keeping their cows on the grass. On the shelf, though, it's almost impossible to distinguish pasture milk from TMR milk. And isn't it our right as consumers to know?
I want to buy milk that comes from cows that have been fed grass. But at the moment, it's not being labelled on the shelves, so I don't have that choice. All we need is a bit of honest labelling. It's not a big ask. I just want to buy milk that comes from cows eating grass.